Yeah, g'day, Wildlife and Science Films back again here. Well, this is part 2 about equipping our Blackmagic Micro Cinema Camera 4K G2 for outdoor film use. And I showed you in the first video that we used a cage. This was a pre-existing cage made by Small Rig for the Super 16 size Full HD Blackmagic camera, and this happens to fit exactly the new 4K G2 micro studio camera. I'm just recapping here. We've got a Small Rig universal base plate here, which will take 2 rails, and we've also got a cheese plate, and we need a cheese plate to extend to get a bit of depth between the bottom of the cage and the actual Manfrotto plate, and that allows us to put these rails into here like this, so we can have some rails in the system, and to put a, I'll just put that down there for a second, and to put onto here, let's even that up a bit, lock those in place, and here we can place on top of this a lens support. If we happen to be using a lens which needs some support away from the camera body, so we don't put too much stress on the actual mount on the camera. So I want to show you a couple of ways of mounting the SSD, because this micro studio camera, the 4K G2, only outputs B-RAW, that's Blackmagic's RAW file format, and there's various different compression variations of the B-RAW file, and it will only output that via the USB-C here on the side of the camera. Okay, in part 1 I did not show you how to attach your solid state drive to the camera, and you can record directly to an SSD, which is really great. Well, as you can see in this picture, you don't need anything more than a cable tie to affix your SSD to your cage or whatever you happen to have the camera in, and it is preferable to have the camera inside of a cage, but you can get something like this. This is a specific clamping system to hold the SSD, and this will in fact hold it a little bit better for sure. And the most important thing is to prevent the cable from torquing or twisting within the SSD, and you don't damage the actual connection. So let me show you how that goes together. And it's that simple, like that, okay? But the important thing is, with this setup in the field, you've got to be able to, you can't have anything on this side, so we need to move this around the other side to twist this around, and that is because we need to reach around here with our finger like this and actuate the record button if we're going to use this in the field. So let's just do that. On the back here, we've got a sweet battery, okay, and now we just need to power the camera. So we've got the screen powered for ever and a day there, like that, but what we don't have is we don't have the camera powered up. So how are we going to do that? Okay, we have a couple of options here of how to power the camera. If you're on a super tight budget, you could just use the Canon equivalent batteries, or a Canon LP-E6NH type battery. However, that will not give you a very long run time, and the thing about that's okay in the studio. So in the studio, of course, well, we could be just powering this thing off the mains power. We don't need to put any batteries in the thing. You could have a battery on there for a backup battery if the power failed, but because this can be powered externally, which is a great thing. However, in the field for shooting wildlife, you really want some better juice on there. I've got a much larger capacity battery. It's the same capacity as the one on the back here. And this thing, you'll get several hours, many hours in fact, of continuous use. And the thing about filming wildlife is you just can't be switching on and off the camera, because you're not doing takes. You don't know exactly all the time when you're going to have to be able to press that record button, and you need the camera on, not having to wait for the camera comes on. Even though this camera starts up pretty quickly, you need the camera on, so you need to be able to have lots and lots of power so you can just run this thing straight away. Now you could of course put an adapter on the back of here for a V-mount battery, but these things work really well. So how do we put this on the back? Because it's a different mount, it doesn't fit on the back of there. We need an adapter. Let's look at that. So here we have an adapter. This is one, just happens to be from Indie Pro, and this will take this large Sony type battery, which will fit on here. This has got a cover on it at the moment for transport, and you can see this small rig. I really like this one. It's got a little OLED screen, tells you there's 100% charge on there. This also can be used as both a power bank and a charging port as well, or you can charge it via a regular Sony type charger, which is really cool. But the point is, this fits on this plate, and then this is a dummy back. This dummy back slides into where your normal Canon battery would slide onto the back of the Blackmagic Micro Cinema Camera 4K G2. It's a big mouthful. Yeah, and that can be held anywhere on the system. So if you're going to have rails on the system sticking out the back of here, some rails like this, and I showed you those in an earlier video coming out the back, you can also mount just a simple mount for this, or you can put a screw into here. This is a 1/4 inch 20 screw, and mount this somewhere else on the cage. However, this gives you a lot of flexibility in runtime, having this thing stuck on the camera like that, and I'll show you that system now.
Okay, so what we have here is a clamp on the back of this SSD here, and that's to secure the USB-C plug into the back of the SSD. And not only is it there to secure it, it's there that if we bump the cable like this, it's not going to wriggle the cable. It's a whole lot of different kettle of fish when you're out in the field as opposed to in the studio, because you're going to be having a hold of this camera, you're going to be moving it around a lot. And if you bump the cables and you damage the socket in your SSD, well, it's just ready for the bin, isn't it? So you can see here, you know when your drive is plugged in properly. We've got, our drive is called Voodoo, and so your name of your drive will come up on here, your SSD, tells you your remaining time. So the reason you've got to have the monitor on the right-hand side is because you need to be able to reach around there and grab the record button with your index finger, and if you've got the SSD on this side of the cage, you can't do it. You see, it's too busy over there, it's impossible. So you reach around there, there's a space, you can feel the button in there, and if you just press it, you can see that we can start recording there. We're starting to record there. Okay, and we've got sound on there, 1 2 3 1 2 3, testing, and it's as simple as that for recording like that in the field. Now let's have a look at a couple of other features. So we have this large capacity battery on the battery holder. Now the battery holder, I've just got it clamped with cable ties and some rubber on the back of these rods. Why does it look so Heath Robinson here? Because I can quickly remove this off. I don't have to spend extra money with another special attachment which will fit on these rails, okay, like the front thing here for this lens support. And by the way too, in this situation, I wouldn't normally use a lens support on here because this lens is just not big enough and heavy enough to warrant that. But I put that on there so I can show you that. This rig would be great to use low down to the ground. That's why we like using Blackmagic cameras, especially these small cinema cameras. We can get them literally on ground level, so the lens is on the ground level. And by that, we would use a bean bag to rest the camera on to get a steady shot there. We would not have it on rails or anything. We wouldn't have the cheese plate. We'd have the camera still in the cage, but we wouldn't have it on all this paraphernalia here to really cut down on things. You saw earlier on, you don't need a clamp. I mean, this makes it a bit more secure, but you don't need one. You can just have it on a cable tie, something like that. You don't have to spend a fortune on it. But what you do need, which is really important, is this large capacity battery, and this will power the camera for several hours only, as opposed to having the smaller Canon mounted in here. If you mount the smaller Canon battery in there, you're only going to get about 60 minutes, less than 60 minutes, if the camera's left continually on. And the importance of filming out of doors with a system such as this is that the camera may have to remain on for a long period of time because you may not know exactly when the action is going to take place. And if you don't know when the action is going to take place, then it makes a big difference. You just can't be turning the camera on and off hoping you're going to catch something. So you need a large capacity battery. I would say overall that this is a minimalist rig for filming outside in the field with the Blackmagic Micro Studio Camera 4K G2.